Hello, everyone. Welcome to Brenda and Sandy's Friday morning chat. Today is April 29th, 2022. We're going to talk about boundaries, control issues, and a cancerous society. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about the stars, astrology. We're going to try to cover off on a few topics today. So Brenda, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Sandy. How are you?
I'm up and down a little bit right now today. Just a lot of betrayals happening. It seems people coming out of the woodwork to cause grief, but I'm gonna be fine. It's just seeing things for what they are, and I'm not happy.
Clarity's everything, isn't it? Absolutely.
For sure.
We have a new moon tomorrow with a solar eclipse accompanying it, so you know some shit's gonna go down or come up or whatever it's gonna be, but it's definitely going to be affecting people all over the place.
It already is. Like, people are just coming out of the woodwork to be asshats, control freaks, assuming that your time is their time, and just that their opinions, you have to assume their opinion to esteem them. And it's like, no, nobody has to esteem anybody else. It's just self-esteem is an inside job, right?
Absolutely.
You can get help with
it. I think that's really important.
Yeah, we can get help for self-esteem, because sometimes people outside of you will recognize if you lack self-esteem, but ultimately it's up to you to recognize it and increase your level of self-esteem, for sure.
Everything is up to us. Again, I've said for a long time now that nobody's here to save us. We have to save ourselves, and it's our responsibility. In the right smack dab in between response and ability is I, and that's the key. It's up to us, and there's only some stuff we can be responsible for that is directly related to us. The rest of it is everybody else's shit. Don't let it be yours.
And stop projecting your shit onto others. That's the firm part of me with the boundaries. Know when your rights start and when your rights stop, and assuming because somebody says something that you don't agree with that your opinion is more important than theirs. No. Stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah. That's all ego, right? Like, that's all. I'm out of control and I need to be in control.
If I control you, then I'm in control. It's a lot of it, right?
And if I see something differently than someone else, but I think that my place is that my opinion or my viewpoint or whatever the hell it is right, then I want them to be, no, that's bullshit. You know what? Everybody's allowed to have their own viewpoint. That's what perception is all about. It's about perspective, right? Your own your own individual one. And you're not going to, I don't think we'll always see things exactly the same as anybody else anyway.
Do we have to?
You might agree.
Why do we have to? What's wrong with these people that you have to see things exactly as they do? What's wrong with these people, right? Is providing nobody's getting hurt.
Yeah.
Right, totally. Right. So what came to me this morning was we live in a cancerous society, and what's happening with cancer is the sick cells. So I'm looking as humans. So I like how you're mentioning the astrology, because I look at the macro and we're the micro. I look at us as the macro, and then our cells are the micro. So this is what the cancerous society is like. All these people, unhealthy people who don't have self-respect, self-esteem, appropriate boundaries, dropping their shit onto everybody else. So that's like the cancerous cells was the analogy I came up with, attacking the healthy cells. So someone can see true, someone's aligned with nature, someone is awake and aware and asking questions. They're the ones who are the problem, and the cancerous cells are attacking them. And what I remember somebody telling me about cancer, it's like loving their cancer. They're fighting for cancer. They're fighting for the toxicity of controlling other people, right? So it's like when we are seeing now people who speak the truth are attacked, while the liars and the manipulators are held in high esteem. The fuck is wrong with people that you have to support the liars and the manipulators, and you all work together as a pack and you try to protect each other, just like a pack of cancerous cells? What's wrong with you people, right? So what I came up with was they're sick in the soul, they're diseased in the heart, mind, and soul. And what had come up was you were talking about the solar eclipse. I want you to go into a bit of that, and then I want to talk about what we're in with alignment with the energies. And you're probably more up to date with this. Wasn't aware tomorrow's a full moon, so you're probably more up to date with that. But I want to talk about the two eclipses that are coming over North America. We're going to be in this for a while, yeah. So anybody who says, "Oh, God came to me," or "I had a premonition," or whatever, no, it's in the astrology. It's already in the planetary alignment. It's in the energy alignment at this point in time that we're in right now. So do you want to talk about the solar eclipse? What's happening?
Yeah. So that happens tomorrow with the new moon. I think it's like 4:28 p.m. I believe it is. And you know, it's also Beltane, which the 30th of April is a very important time because it's 30th of April and the 1st of May. You have to recognize that there's a very transformative energy there. It's very much about manifestation and fertility and creation, right? And so Beltane, first of all, is the Celtic pagan festival of fertility rites and things like that. And so over on the other side of the pond here, they will light fires and they will do fertility rituals and things like that, because that's really what Beltane is about. It's like a spring rite, a little bit different than Ostara, than Easter, or even than the equinox itself. But what we have is May Day. The next day is May Day, and May Day is a typically phallic representation, right? So we have the maypole. People danced around the maypole. They still do in certain parts of Europe, and that's really about the male and female, the phallic, you know, the fertility rites, all of that stuff. But we have to recognize that it also ushers in May, which is, of course, a transformational month in and of itself. Like, it's huge. That's when we see those April showers that turn into May flowers and all of these things. It's about really the earth itself, especially in this side of the world, right, in this hemisphere, coming out and sort of becoming what it's supposed to be, being reborn and all that stuff. So it's really a powerful time for people. And now the new moon and the equinox, or excuse me, the new moon and the solar eclipse that comes with that is very intense this year. There is no mistake to the fact that it's happening right here in this time frame. And what that tells me is that I've often said, for instance, that I use the analogy of, well, the example, when we were kids, I used to have this thing called the Viewmaster. You know, I used to put little discs in it and you click the thingy and it would show you a new picture every time you clicked it. That's what eclipses are like for me. Like, energetically and psychically, I see them as these sort of resets, and where you get a chance to find a new picture and then take a new space because you've moved into a new frame. That's really where we are right now. Now, the next one coming, of course, accompanies the full moon, which is a lunar eclipse. And we have to have the balance. There's always going to be a duality at play here. We always have a minimum of 4 eclipses a year. There's always 2 sets of the male and female, the new and the full moons. Sometimes, like a couple of years ago, we had like 6, and last year I think we had 5. It's very interesting when you think about it, how that works in a calendar year. But ultimately, what we need to recognize that this gives us a new frame to work with, a new energy frame to work with. And intense, absolutely. The energies, people are already feeling that. New moons often pack a hell of a punch anyway. But this one in particular, being with April 30th and May 1st stuff, all of this eclipse stuff as well, is super intense. It's almost like, because it's a black moon rising, right? Like, it's almost like a supercharged moon in a way, even though it's not necessarily a super moon. So I would say that people are going to notice themselves agitated, assertive. There's going to be a lot of aggression for people. New moons are very masculine in nature, so they're going to have that kind of action and assertive kind of, you know, energy about them. So this is a time for us to take charge and to really recognize what it is we want to see. No more falling into this bullshit of the cancer stuff, like, that is, you know, out there and about all over the place, because we end up getting distracted by it. We're focused on it, and then we're caught up in it, right? And the next thing you know, you've got something going on yourself. So it's about letting go, recognizing it for what it is, and reclaiming that power for yourself. We talked about setting boundaries, right? Why to set them and how to set them. That kind of idea is very important right now. It's a great time to do all of that work right here, right now, in the next 36 to 48 hours.
Do you know what's coming up for me? It's really interesting as you're talking, and I'm feeling the energies that are, I've been so busy. I had 14 phone calls yesterday from 10 o'clock on, right? Like, it's just, I've been busy, so I didn't get a chance to go into what I normally do. But as you're talking, I'm feeling the energy. The word that's coming up for me is desperation. People are desperate. So it's easier to knock somebody else off their center or knock them down than get off your fucking ass and do your own work, right? So we're getting tired of the people who are just trying to tell you, you got to think their way or do their thing. We don't care what you do. We respect you enough to do what you need to do. However, it's up to you to make sure you don't cause harm to yourself and harm to others, right? So that's the big one. But the aggression and the desperation and pettiness, first, the great divide is happening. It's upon us right now, right? With boundaries, it's interesting because what's come up a lot lately is people have the right to say no to you. And there's a lot of Facebook posts. I can't remember the people who are posting it. I'm just, you know, sharing them about the narcissism and the abusers. So the abuser will abuse you. And if you speak up for yourself, by the time they're done, they've twisted around and have everybody saying you're the abuser and they're the victim. And if you're too stupid to not see that game, that's your problem. But we're not that stupid. We do see that game. And now it's all about that, just as you talk about the neutral, we often talk about staying neutral and just staying in that higher position and observing what's happening. Because if you have to attack one of your friends because their opinion doesn't suit you, you have to assume you're more superior than one of your friends or a family member, even for that matter, because you have low self-esteem and you want to show everybody how smart you are and you're doing it for their good. Chances are you have self-esteem issues, you have boundary issues. Maybe you need to look at what's really important, because people are getting sick of the shit of other people telling them, you know, what you got to think. So it's an interesting time, but this is what's coming up, is the desperation that you feel in society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be what breeds this cancerous stuff, right? Like really, that's what it all comes down to, is like you said, a dis-ease, right? People, if they're not set, if they're not settled, if they're not balanced, if they're not neutral, right? You're going to find yourself having some issues. You really are. And you've got to stay focused on where you are and stay grounded. For God's sake, stay grounded. People are trying to knock you off your kilter all the damn time. Just like that, exactly like you said, because they want you to think their way. They think that they're right, or there is no right or wrong. There's only what works for you and what doesn't. Get the fuck off your high horse, buddy. Your horse, you know what I mean? Like, it's not about me. It's about you. Get real about it, and we'll talk about it. But otherwise, I don't always buy into that stuff. Sometimes I get caught. Sometimes
we all do sometimes, but sooner or later they're going to show their true colors, right? And that's what I'm finding. A lot of people are showing the true colors. What you just said about grounding, because you know what happens when you ground? I'm getting faster at seeing who manipulates and who lies, especially when they're talking to me. So I'm blonde, so it's convenient. I can play stupid, right? So I just go along and listen and let them keep talking and talking and talking, because people like to talk about themselves. So sometimes I just sit and listen, but I'm getting to the point now. I wonder if I can consciously send energy that we know you're lying, and we know you're lying. And if that will change the energy of the person, so when they know we know you're lying, can you still lie to our faces when we know you know? So I've only ever had 2 psychopath clients come in, and it was interesting because it's your $100. How you spend your money and your time is your business, right? But if you want to sit here and lie to me and try to make it look like somebody else is the issue, and I know, you know, and I'm reading, and then I see that they know that I know that they know, but it's your $100 and it's your story, man. If you want to sit here and tell me that somebody else is the problem and try to manipulate me to get me on your side, I don't care. I don't work that way. I'm not attached to any outcome. But it was interesting because those people never come back.
No.
Because they know, you know, right? I don't have to tell them they're fucked up. Like I've said, I've only ever had 2 that sat there trying to make it look like their partner was the problem, or whatever it was, right? And it's like, no, I know your partner and that's not the problem. So,
you know, I find that a lot with clients that have actually been to counselors and stuff. Have you noticed how often counselors and psychotherapists will play that bullshit with their clients? Yeah. Oh, it's all about you. Oh yeah, they're definitely the problem. It's not you. What the fuck? Why are you the one sitting in the chair then? Why aren't they sitting in the chair? Anyhow, go ahead. Sorry.
So it's interesting. So I did some, I can't remember what day I figured this out. I've done some videos last week. I think I did 4 or 5. We did ours on Thursday, and then I had one a day for 4 days. And it's interesting because once you start calling out the bullshit, this is funny if you guys are from, any of you are watching, just to know what I'm referencing. I'm not going to say what I'm referencing, but when you know the bullshit, you know the game. So I'm sitting here and I'm laughing and I'm thinking, the first time I did David Zublick's show, people came out of the woodwork. So you triggered a word there for me. A counselor sends me this beautiful email and says, oh, I love everything you said. I'm thinking of letting go of my counseling license, and I'm thinking of getting into coaching. May I speak with you? I'm getting calls from all kinds of people. Same as Stu Peters, right? And it's funny because once you start putting all this together, you realize the common denominators, that one person sent 3 people my way to try to waste my time. And it was interesting. So I did the David Zublick show, and I'm like, okay, I didn't get 1 phone call. Okay. I didn't get 1 email. Do another one on Saturday, no calls, no emails. Do another one Sunday, no calls, no emails. I do another one Monday, no calls, no emails. And I'm sitting here and I'm going, what is going on? And I start laughing, and I realize, because the people who called last time all pretended they had problems or wanted me to help, and I could see through it all. This time they didn't call because I can see through it. So they know I'm going to call them on their shit, right? So it's just, so this is the kind of awareness that we're talking about when you start to see the games. So everybody wanted to be like me, to be a bleeding heart and take their story into, you know, into my own and help them with all this, all to spin my wheels. So it's pretty funny. I got other things going on. Don't get me wrong. There's still lots of head games going on, but they're not coming out of the woodwork pretending to be victimized by something. So it's pretty amazing. I have one fellow who's been trying to get a hold of it. Like he's been trying to play games. On Saturday, he calls me 4 times. Like, fuck off, leave me alone. I'm not interested in talking to you. Right. So then he takes my one video and posts it on a support group for parents who've lost their children to CPS. He posted as if he's my buddy. So I had to go to the person who runs the channel and go, he's not my buddy. Like, how many times do you have to say no for these people to get the message, right? So it doesn't matter. I've talked to so many people now who know him. They all know his game, right? JC is his initials, but they all know the game. But this is just interesting that the lack of, so the need for him to control what somebody else does. I don't know you. I don't like you. I don't like your personality. So he calls on Saturday night. This is awful. He calls on Saturday night at 10:30 because they're trying to get you. It's like the cop move. They knock on the door late at night or first thing in the morning, thinking you're going to be either asleep or waking up and groggy. So he calls at 10:30 and I'm on the phone with somebody else and I go, you're not going to believe JC's calling me. And I go, I'm not picking up. So anyways, he goes, you're not going to believe this. And I go, what? He goes, JC's now calling me. He goes, should we do a 3-way? I go, why not? Right? So I started talking and I said, you know, you think we don't see you sending all these people our way? And I named all the people and all the time they're wasting. And I go, you sent me this guy after that phone call with the Zoom call with Danny Bulford. And I said, who wants to listen to a man's erectile dysfunction stories for an hour? I go, I didn't charge him, so I could say whatever I want. And I'm laughing. Well, this guy's just getting agitated like crazy, right? He's losing his shit. And I'm laughing like I did the reverse, mocking him. You think we don't see what you're doing? So anyways, he gets off the phone, calls back this guy the next morning and says, we need Sandy to make a 911 call to Lindsay jail. Yeah, I'm going to go and get charged with nuisance or mischief because I won't take your shit. Like, this is how petty some of these people are. Fuck off. We don't like you. We don't like you. It's not personal. We don't want anything to do with you. You go about your business. But you can't. This is what they don't teach in boundary school. How to stop when somebody says no, respect the no. So this is
no is a complete sentence.
I remember you saying that, and I like that, right? But so it's pretty funny how all this stuff is coming out. Like, no, we're not interested. And this is going to be the energetic consciousness change. I think that's going to slow the engine down because no is almost like a wall, and it's like we're not buying anymore. So if you're going to change direction in a dysfunctional world, you have to slow it down first and then switch direction. You're not just going to flip it and go in the other direction. So this is why we have to start calling out all the nonsense that we're seeing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
you know, it's interesting that no is the first word that we all pretty much learn, isn't it? You know, we learn because we're taught no, but then we're taught not to say no. Like, you know, it's said to us constantly as little ones. And then boom, as soon as we start saying no back, they don't like it. Like, what the fuck? Give me a break.
So
right?
Great analogy.
We all need to learn where it is.
Yeah, great analogy because we live in such an immature society, right? So speak up for your rights, but not to me. Speak up for your rights, but as long as it agrees with what I think. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just a very immature time, and what we're seeing, I think, is more and more of that starting to show itself, right?
Absolutely.
So, but definitely grounding and doing a meditation of some sort where that you can put it out there that I see corruption. And this is not what you're going to draw to you because you see it. You can observe it and stay in that higher position. I see what lies and manipulations look like. I see who's telling them. I see who's feigning stupidity and pretending they're dumb. I see who is dumb. And work your way through all of these different games that people play, right? The whole spectrum of dysfunction is what I'm coming up with.
Absolutely.
So did you so I was talking to somebody today, and what they said is like when you're saying no and keep having to say no, it's like pulling a weed, but the weed keeps growing back. Like, no. I thought that was a really good analogy.
You know, it's interesting because actually I'll tell you too quickly, anybody who's interested, I have a really great little meditation that I send to people about grounding that'll help you actually be very, very sturdy in this time. Because we want to be connected to this planet. We really, really do, because we're here to do something with it, here to change it and the way that it runs and all that. But you don't want to be so ensconced in it that you can't get out of it. So it's like being in the world, but not of it. You know, it's one of those things. The other thing I wanted to say too quickly is that we need to talk about those people who are constantly at other people, often have a victim mode kind of going on, right? A little victim personality thing going on. And there's a lot of people with that, and yet they'll play it on the other side of it as a sort of a superiority complex, but it is very much a victim or even a martyr kind of concept, you know?
We were talking about the hero savior complex. When you have a hero savior complex that you're here to save the world, that's part of the negative alien agenda. That's part of the deep state, that you're so special. It's like sending your love and your light because it's so fucking special that you're going to save the world with it. Be the love, be the light if that's what you want to be. See the truth. Be that high energy, but to be able to think you're going to project that onto other people, it makes you superior somehow. It doesn't. We're all in this together. No, and I know we've talked about that, but the hero savior complex, it took me a bit to get my head around that, because we all know we're here to do something, but it doesn't mean anyone's role is more important or significant than others, right? People were losing their shit over Stu Peters. So what? I was on Stu Peters for 15 minutes. So what? Right? But to them, it's like, oh, it's so big. And it's like, no, I had an opportunity. He's got a platform. I have a message. We connected. We haven't connected since. Doesn't matter. But it's like, this is the problem that everybody's trying to claw, as if they're going to be the top dog, that hierarchy. There's no hierarchy anymore. It's not going to work that way. There's no more gurus.
And it's exactly right. It's all about those people who seem to think that somebody else is better than them in a way, or that because they have a platform, bigger one, or a lot of audience, whatever, it doesn't matter. You know what? The way I see it and the way I teach my clients is this: if you're here, you're living, you're breathing, you're meant to be here, and you're just as fucking important as everything else, everybody else, everything else. And get used to it, because it's the only way you're going to be empowered in it. It's the only way you're going to own yourself.
And it's really empowering. I was working with a young man this week, and he just had trouble accessing his feelings. Just he explained a few things that have happened, and I'm not going to go into it, but he's having trouble accessing his feelings. And I wasn't sure if it was societal, but he had a few psychic and spiritual experiences, and they transformed things. And I started looking at his low self-esteem and self-doubt and things like this. And he came from a good family. I didn't get any kind of shaming from his parents, like when I read his fields, things like that. But when he left, he's smiling. He goes, I haven't smiled in so long. So sometimes people get knocked down and you need somebody to help you. But he didn't come to me as a victim. He came to me and said, I got a problem. What is it?
That's empowered.
It's powered, right? So, and a friend of mine had referred him to me, which was fantastic. But so we all have to do our own lifting, and we all have to do our own work. And anybody who's projecting their shit on somebody else, you're the problem. And we're going to start punching back. You know what's going to happen? Then they're going to think they have the right to hurt you because you didn't take their shit. That's the next step of psychopathy. If I don't, how's that go? If think of it as your politicians. I love you, but you're hurting me. Smack. If you didn't say that, I wouldn't have had to hurt you because I love you. You know, I'm thinking of that Kathy Bates and Jack Nicholson in The Shining, that kind of personality. Do you know what I mean? So this is what we're dealing with, but we're getting tired of people. You know, you say no. So what's that matter? What's it mean to you when somebody says no to you? Is it a rejection? If somebody says no, what does that mean? If it's a rejection, why are you so sensitive to rejection? So if somebody says no to a date, I give an example. Would you like to go out on a date with me? No, thank you. You know, appreciate and flatter, but no, thank you. But then does that mean you have the right to cause them pain because they rejected you? They just said no.
And that's their own wounding, right? Yeah, that's them being in a place of wounded.
Right. So if you don't let me tell you what to think, it's your fault. No. Do you see where I'm trying to use different examples of the same thing? So the thing about the cancerous people who are holding manipulators and liars and thieves and cheats and murderers up on pedestals right now, they're the ones who are causing so much pain because they're the cancer, but they have to have victims to make this work. So what they're doing is projecting their energy into the victims. And we were talking about cancer earlier, and this is Richard Hunt and David Hawkins wrote this book, Meridian-Based Healing. So it talks about type C learned behavior pattern. These are the types of people who get cancer. So I'm just going to run through a few paragraphs of personality types. Cope with stress by being a nice guy, must be courageous at all times, rarely express negative emotions, must conquer my fears, afraid of boundaries, unexpressed anger, rarely lose my temper, unassertive, compliant, overly cooperative, and subservient. So when you look at the personality who goes along with everything because doesn't want to offend anybody or doesn't speak up, you're going to internalize other people's shit, and that's going to make you sick. The next one, do anything for love, taken advantage of, exaggerated self-sacrifice, appease, peace at any price, cope with life, take what comes my way, need to please, no is a 4-letter word, need to be thought caring, needs to meet the needs of others. That's kind of like the hero savior complex. So I think there's about let's see how many, 19 types of personalities that they've grouped together, like personality traits that they've grouped together that can cause cancer. So usually it's the people who are more giving, more loving, care about everybody but themselves, put up with other people's nonsense, make excuses for people. Those are the ones who, according to this Richard Hunt, are getting sick. So this is why it's important that you stand up to the people who are pushing your buttons and let them have it verbally. Just, you don't have to be mean, just say no. No. And if you don't respect my no, then you don't have the privilege of being in my life. And this is what's coming up with me right now. I'm really calling thinning the herd around me again. I thought I had already done it once, but it's coming up again. But this is what happens. You don't respect my choice? No. We can say no to you. And once we start learning to say no to the people around us, even in our vicinity, we're going to start saying no to the politicians. We're going to start saying no to the policymakers, with whatever the organizations. No, we don't have to fight, but if we do, we do. But the answer is no. No, absolutely. We aren't taking this.
And you have to stand strong in that. You cannot waver.
And
when you said no, mean it.
I know.
Say what you don't mean.
So we've talked about this before. The people who, what's the saying? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You know, I just had to bow out of an event last night because a person told me that they were going to take certain people off of their thread who I knew were monitoring what was going on, including what I was doing. He told me he did it and he didn't. So guess what? I'm sorry, I can't make your event. It's not. I'm not gonna beg you. You said you're going to do it. You did the exact opposite. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Right. That's very nice. And you don't have to be honest and tell them why you're doing it.
They do something else. What is that shit? Say one thing and do something else. What the hell?
So we're seeing this, and that's what we're talking about, is being aligned with the truth and being aligned with your mission, whatever that mission is. You can still be on a mission, but not be special or more important than somebody else. Like that's my belief, right? I've never was attracted to Hollywood. I can never figure out why some people would be better actors and be classified as A-list stars and some not. Same as music, same as art. I could never figure it out. Now you realize it's because they go further to do a nasty deed on somebody. They're not a better actor than somebody else. It's just they would go further to cause pain and suffering on somebody, as we know, without going into that story, right? So this is, so I never figured out why do some people, and there's people that my personality was drawn to their personality, their persona on the TV, on the programming. But in hindsight, I was wrong on two of them I can think of. I was dead wrong on Kevin Spacey. But then I realized, as we've talked, I watched him, and when I watch him, he always plays the underdog. He's the cripple, or he's got scars. So are we actually aligning with the fact that we like these people, or we feel sorry for them? And that's what opens our heart up. Oh, that poor person has been through so much. And that's what opens us up to their bullshit and not being able to see through them. Because as you just described, the victim, the abuser pretends they're the victim. I've had a few good ones in the last little while. Cancer, and anybody who tells me now they got cancer, I know that they just want me to put them ahead of everybody else. I'm not saying cancer doesn't exist.
No.
People who approach me with the cancer.
So I'm going to throw this out there. I just found out someone I know just came through about with breast cancer. And someone who for many years I've known and have been very close to for a number of years, but things have kind of, you know, I mean, obviously things, we always do this stuff, right? Everybody does all the time. Yes. However, this is what got me, because I was surprised that I wasn't, you know, that they didn't reach out to me or whatever. Not because I'm anybody special, but because I am a friend and I could certainly send some healing their way and do those kinds of things. Because even though some people don't want love and light, right? Others are receptive to it. And when you send that channel through, it's certainly you. But anyway, what came back was, well, very few people knew. And everybody was going through so much, I didn't want to add mine.
Hey, first personality. Everybody.
And I'm like, you know, but if that was the role, if that role was reversed, they would have been very disappointed in me for not reaching out. I'm like, first of all, I'm not into sabotage. I'm not into self-martyrdom. I'm not into any of that shit. I'm really not. So I wasn't going to buy into it. But at first I was a little bit pissy about it, because I'm like, well, what are friends for? Like, really? So but, you know, that's them. It's not me.
This is a great opportunity, though, to speak to women about breast cancer, because what do our breasts protect? Our heart. And you think of the breast as giving nourishment, and part of the life cycle with babies. And what happens when women don't stand up for themselves, and people don't stand up for themselves, but predominantly women, you break your own heart. And when you can't express yourself, your heart starts to shut down, because we are meant to be the epitome of love itself. That's why a lot of women get breast cancer, because the breasts are here to protect your heart. So I don't know that all breast cancers are even real, or whether they're just saying it because they want to get you under the knife and get money for the procedure. I don't know. I honestly don't know. So I'm questioning everything. But that's the big thing about breast cancer, because all this is about breaking your heart. It's about betrayal. So you don't want to be a burden on anybody else. So chances are that's also a symptom that you cannot receive love. I go through this with a lot of women, right? They're upset their partners won't give them love. But when I start doing exercises with them to see how receptive they are to receiving, no, they're always giving. So they can't receive. But they, again, turn and blame the partner for not giving. But it's like, so there's we've got a lot of work to do while all this fuckery goes on around us, and all this game playing and manipulation. Like, who cares about all that stuff? It's only about money and manipulation and trying to get more beans in your jar kind of thing. But that's what a lot of this is about, right? Not being able to express yourself as a loving person. But because we're all on defense, because everybody's just attacking right now, because everybody's desperate. Not everybody, people are desperate. So I know people who are staying out of, yeah. So, and it's okay that we're talking about this, but it's always going to come back to being that loving energy, expressing that loving energy, loving yourself enough to know that you put yourself at least 51% first. And it's not a self-centered thing to do. It's not selfish to do that at all. You're honoring yourself. So when somebody's trying to bully you and somebody's trying to get you to do something and you keep saying no, love yourself enough to say no. That's your agenda, not mine. In my book, I write about other esteem, and these are the kind of games that people play. Let's see if I can grab a copy here. So these are the games that people are playing when it comes to other esteem. Other esteem. So people esteem themselves through their looks, through their possessions, by what their partner or friend do for a living or have achieved, by what they themselves have achieved, by where they live, by their position in life, by what their children accomplish in school or sports, by any degree, titles, or achievements, or any combination of the above. And this is what the problem is with esteem. So people are esteeming through things that don't matter. External causes of low self-esteem. People trying to convince you, this is what we're talking about, people trying to convince you that their lies are the truth. So this is all the inversion. People trying to convince you they know better than you to do what course of action is best for you to take over offering their insight and letting you make your own decision. So this is what I'm getting right now with a couple of people. I got to listen to you. No, I don't. People trying to convince you their agenda should be your agenda. People trying to control you or to control the outcome of a situation that affects you. People who choose to remain in denial as to a situation and would rather convince you the situation isn't real in order to keep them from awakening to their own truth. Oh my gosh, can we say the injection? Can we say the LBGT? Can we say, oh, we could talk about a lot of things about that. The lockdowns, all kinds of things, right? People who would like you not to trust yourself, so you will engage in their nonsense. And we're seeing a lot of that right now, just fucking stupidity, right? I can't believe how many shallow people are showing who they are right now. But again, can we put our consciousness into, like go into a meditation, put our consciousness in that we can start seeing, ask to be shown shallow people. I'll give an example. At one point, I asked to be shown the truth of what's really going on in the world. And I made a mistake because I got truth bombed, and I was just like, whoa. I couldn't believe the things that my poor little head was starting to see for the first time, whether it was the astrology, it didn't matter what it was, right? Numerology, astrology, it didn't matter what it was. But I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe this. So then I learned how to taper that. I said, show me true in a way I can handle it, at a pace I can handle it. And it tapered down. So I'm not nuts, because there for a while, like you think you're crazy when you start waking up, you're like, you don't think I'm crazy, but I'm certain to think this. And, you know, you do feel like you're crazy. Totally. Haven't we all? Anybody who's awakened to whatever degree has been there, right? So it's just an interesting time, but we're seeing what's happening. And if you have to cut people loose, cut them loose. Like I said, fool me once, fix it up.
Listen, it's like having a wart on your foot, man. If you need to cut it off so that you can walk properly or with ease, get it the fuck off. Like, honestly, it's a wart, seriously. Yeah. You know, and I think one of the things you talked about, we sort of mentioned a little bit about sympathy and empathy. Like there's a big difference between them, right? Like a lot of people don't know there is a difference. They think it's the same thing. It's not. One of the other things I want to talk about real quickly here is that, you know, putting yourself at the top of the list thing. You said give yourself 51% of the attention. I've said to women, especially women mostly, but men have this issue as well. But I do find it mostly in women and particularly mothers often. There's a list of things to do and people to take care of. And I often say to them, look at the list. Where the fuck's your name on it, right? Like you might have to flip it over and look at the very bottom because that's generally where we end up. I'm like, you can't do that. You got nothing in your cup if you're at the bottom of that list because there's nothing left after you've given it to everybody else. Bring yourself to the other side, to the very top, and you're not better than anybody else, but you certainly are equally due any kind of attention or affection, really, right? At that point. So for a number of years, I've tried to teach people. Well, a couple of my guides came forward and they were like, well, we want you to teach this. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, well, it's righteous selfishness. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And they're like, no, righteous selfishness. I'm like, ladies, like it was a couple of ascended masters who came. And I'm like, oh, whoa. I said, you know, first of all, that's a hard sell for people. Nobody wants to be selfish and they sure as shit don't want to be righteous about it, right? Like nobody wants it. We've been taught that's bad. So for like 7 years, I pushed righteous selfishness on people just to explain to them that you have this divine duty to take care of yourself. Finally, I said to the ladies, I said, okay, girls, I said, we're going to have to shift this up a little bit. So we managed to shift it to sacred selfishness. And even at that, we've been taught selfish is such a bad thing. But if you look it up in the dictionary, selfish just means to keep good things for yourself. What the fuck is wrong with that? Why is that? If you're not doing it to the detriment of other people or yourself, what is wrong with that? So then we started teaching sacred selfishness because all of a sudden, or sacred self-fulfillment rather. So all of a sudden it's a different thing, but it's the same shit. It's just a different title. But sacred self-fulfillment, all of a sudden people are like, well, maybe that's different. It's the same shit. So like go with it, right? And take care of yourself because you're here for you. You're not here for anybody else. You're not here to save the planet or other people on it, rather, just the planet and yourself on it. That's it. And like you said, be the light, be the love, and watch what happens when that emanates from you. It's very important for people to really own that for themselves and not feel fucking bad about it.
So this is all part of the controls that we have in society. As you're talking, I'm writing, don't be selfish creates an imbalance of power so someone can take from you. Because if they can shame you into thinking you're selfish and you let that land, what happens now, this person can advance on you because they realize this is going to be one of your hot buttons that you don't want to be considered as selfish.
That's right. And what's wrong with it? Look it up, people. Honestly, look it up in the dictionary. You'll be just as surprised as I was 10 years ago when I was like, because really, it has nothing to do with being a bastard or an asshole to somebody else. It has everything to do with just looking after and keeping stuff for yourself. And there's really nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, totally. I agree with that. So this is all part of healthy self-esteem too, including selfishness, but knowing what boundaries are, knowing what's your right to take and what's not your right to take, knowing what it's like to receive. You know, when I worked with people about a year ago, I was doing a lot of tapping, just the energies were. Sorry, we had just a little technical error there. We can't remember what we were just talking about, but about selfishness and setting boundaries and knowing when you have the right to say what you want from somebody. But a lot of this boundary setting is not taught in any kind of formal setting, whether in education, in any kind of a family planning courses, to understand that when you know how to set a healthy boundary, you can now shoot for higher things because your chances are you're not going to fight as much with your partner. And you're talking about women putting themselves at the bottom of the list. Again, all I know I was going to talk about was tapping. I was doing a lot of tapping. And because the energy was a little slower back then, and it took a little longer, maybe I wasn't as seasoned as I am now at this, but when you ask yourself, although I have this, whatever it is, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And then you say it 3 ways, and then you go into the tapping protocol. I could always tell who didn't love themselves because they couldn't say it. I love myself. Even though I have this problem, I deeply and completely accept myself. So then I knew that it was a self-love issue. They didn't think they were worthy of love. And that's part of like not just being selfish, but giving yourself the self-love. So I could always tell who didn't love themselves. So I would know where to go with that particular client. Some people had no problem saying it, right? But a lot of the people I worked with, especially women, didn't love themselves. So I'm like, okay, what's that all about? I'd go through and do whatever the problem was with the tapping. And it's like, let's get back to this. right? So, and they aren't teaching healthy relationships. They're not teaching loving relationships. They're not teaching a prospective couple. How do you talk about what you're going to do for parenting? Why is it the woman always assumes she has to do it? And I've seen both. I've seen the men blow off the role of the caretaker, and I've seen women be control freaks and wouldn't let the man in to look after the baby, and then they turn around and burn out, and then they get tired because they say they're doing it all, but they won't let that partner participate. This should all be discussed before you have that child. Should all be discussed before you decide you're gonna conceive. But we don't teach any of these things about right relationship. And that's so a lot of what I do, and especially in my book, that's what I talk a lot about, is how to create right relationship, first and foremost with yourself. And I also go into the masculine and the feminine, right? How communication is still the biggest problem. We don't know how to communicate with men and women. I have some clients, male clients, I can be half an hour and their eyes glaze over, and I know they're done. We just can't go any further for that day. But respect that. We're the talkers. They tend not to be the talkers. We tend to be the talkers, right? But and I have other men that they can only handle so much information, then they have to go and process. But it's no different in personal relationships. Let them go process. Let them
Everybody
go, right?
does things their own way.
Right.
You know, and when you speak about worthy, you know, the worst part I think that I find with clients is that for whatever belief or whatever reason they believe it, that they're not worthy. You know,
Yes.
And that gets me because it took me a long time. I'm 51 now. Like, it took me a long fucking time to get to that place, to move out of all kinds of other consciousnesses and you know, aspects. But honestly, we never were not worthy. The fact of the matter is, self-worth and trust are two of the biggest ways they hijacked us, so that we could start way back on the other side of the friggin' line and not even realize we're supposed to be here when we start. We're not supposed to be back there.
I agree. And this is really good that we're talking about this, but we're realizing other people are impeding other people's personal growth because you haven't got the balls or the gumption to get off your ass and do your own work. Don't hold other people back with your superior complex or your superior opinion, because we're getting tired of it, right? So I don't know how much longer we're going to have before it cuts out on us again. So I'm wondering, is this a good spot maybe to stop?
Probably.
And if anybody wants to reach out to Brenda or I, all of our information is always in the contact or the description box. And know you're worth it. Know that you might be experiencing some of these problems right now. It's okay to say no to people. You know, try not to be mean to them. And some of them, sometimes you have to be really firm with them, but know you have the right to say no and set boundaries and do your own growth.
Firm doesn't need to be rude. Firm just needs to be solid and with conviction, right? With your own truth in place. Absolutely. And like I said, if anybody wants that audio, that meditation, yeah, let me know, and I'll definitely send it along.
And Brenda's email, her email will be in the description box as well, so you can reach her. So have a great weekend, everybody, and keep your powder dry, because it's going to be a rocky one, I think, with these energies coming in. So see what happens. Okay, take care.
Always good chatting, Sandy.
Yes,
take care, everybody. Bye now.
Bye-bye.